This conference will now be recorded.
In yesterday's session, we were discussing about what is volume, what is MTDAR volume, what is host path volume, and what is NFS volume. We were discussing. And recently, one more thing, people started facing issues while setting up the Kubernetes cluster. So while setting up the Kubernetes cluster, you might have created a servers like this, creating a instances, right? You guys selected maybe this Ubuntu AMI. So with this AMI, whatever we are using here, with that AMI, it is not working. The Kubernetes, your API server is keep on getting restarted because of some compatibility issues. So whenever your API server is keep on restarting, whenever it is down, when you are executing kubectl commands, it is saying connection refused on that IP on that port. But after some time again it will up. That time it will work, but again it will go down. So that is what happening. So if you guys are facing the issues while setting up the Kubernetes cluster, don't use that AMI. Don't use that AMI while creating a servers, your Kubernetes servers. While creating a servers, you give that AMI ID, whatever AMI ID I have given, right? So search in the search box, search in the search box, it will show that result like that AMI ID, whatever I have shown. So select that AMI and proceed the servers. Is that issue resolved? Most of the guys yesterday reported, sir, my Kubernetes cluster, it is showing kubectl get nodes where I'm executing. It was showing like connection refused. I already updated the issue. Is that resolved for you guys? Whoever faced that issue, couple of people have that issues yesterday. None of them are there in the class who faced the issue yesterday. Okay, that is one major problem, guys. Attending the classes is important. Don't only depend on the recordings. Okay, I can't say anything more than this. So follow that instructions. It will resolve the issue. Now let's proceed with next topic. We were using volumes. We have a different types of volumes like MTDAR, host path volume, NFS volume, AWS Elastic Block Store, AWS Elastic Block Store, Azure File, Azure Disk, Google Persistent Disk. Like this, there are lot of volumes. Most importantly, there is one concept called persistent volume claim. Persistent volume claim. This type of storage is also there. And similarly, we have some volumes called config map secrets. I will explain all these things later. What is this config map? What is this secret? I'll cover this later. As of now, we are using volumes. But is Kubernetes is maintaining that storage information anywhere in the cluster? Is it maintaining the state or information about that storage anywhere in the cluster, like the way it is maintaining deployments information, the way it is maintaining volumes the way it is maintaining services information? Is Kubernetes is maintaining what type of volumes you are using, how many volumes are there in the cluster, like that? Is it maintaining anywhere as of now? No. You are using volumes that the volume information is not maintained in the Kubernetes cluster. So you are using a kind of a bind mounts. You are directly using the storages with your pods. Instead of doing that way, there is a different way of using the volumes called persistent volumes and persistent volume claims. it is recommended to use persistent values and persistent value claims in Kubernetes. I'm using values directly with my pods. I'm not using kind of a recommended way of using the values. Now, if you see, we are using values. We are using values directly with our pod. But is Kubernetes is maintaining like this? How many values are there? The way it is maintaining, how many deployments are there? How many services are there? Is Kubernetes is going to store any information about the values in the cluster as of now? No. Your values are directly associated with your pods. Your values are directly associated with your pods. Once your that deployment is completely deleted, let's consider this replication controller is completely deleted. Does Kubernetes has any information about the values which was using earlier? Suppose if I delete this controller completely, it is going to delete the pods. The data values will be there, but does Kubernetes has any information about whatever values we were using earlier? If I use directly like this, no. So in Kubernetes, there is a different way of using values, that is persistent values. Persistent values and persistent value claims. There are two important things here. Kubernetes persistent, Kubernetes persistent values and value claims. So in Kubernetes, this is the recommended way of using values. So values is nothing but storage. Values is nothing but a storage, which we already discussed. There are different types of values like AWS Elastic Block Store. We can directly use like this. Based on the infrastructure, you can directly use like this. Yes, even though you are creating a pods, can I use values? Because these values and value mounts are part of your container specification, your pod specification. So even though you are directly creating a pods also, you can use all these details as is. Whatever we are using under pod template, that will work even though you are directly creating a pod. Now, there are different values like this: Azure file, Azure disk, empty day, or host path, like this. Values and value mounts. But this is not recommended way to use values. In Kubernetes, there is a concept called persistent values. Persistent values. What do you mean by persistent value and persistent value claims? So, managing a storage is a problem. So, managing a storage is a problem from managing the compute instances. The persistent value is again one Kubernetes API, Kubernetes object. The persistent value provides an API for users or administrators that abstract how storage is provided and how it is consumed. We are going to hide from the users of that Kubernetes how storage is provided and how storage is consumed. We can hide using this persistent value concept. There are two API resources here. There are two API resources here. One is persistent value and persistent value claim. One is persistent value, another one is persistent value claim. So first, let me explain what is this claim. What do you mean by claim, this persistent value claim? I'll come to this one later. So persistent value claim is basically, it's a request for storage. It's a request for storage. It's a request for value. So this persistent value claim is kind of a request for storage. It's kind of a request for storage. So using persistent value claim, we call it as a PVC. In the short form, we call it as a PVC. Using PVC, we can specify, or we can request, we can specify or request how much storage you need, how much storage you need, and with what access mode you need, we can specify. Using persistent volume claim, we can request who the guys who is going to need a values, the guys who need a values, the guys who need a values to mount for their pods, they need to create a request. They need to create a request using PVC. So it's a request PVC. It's a request for a storage. It's a request for a storage by user. Guys, here the user means don't consider this as a end user. Persistent volume is a request for a storage by a user. Don't consider here user as an end user. Who is the user means here? What do you mean by user here? The guy, the user, the guy who is using Kubernetes, kind of a developers or DevOps engineers or administrators. The users here is like a developers or DevOps engineers or administrators who are requesting a storage for their applications, their pods. So it's a request for a storage by a user. So while creating a pod, the way we are specifying how much CPU, how much memory you need, while creating a pod, the way we are specifying how much CPU, how much memory we need for that pod. So while creating a PVC, can I specify the size and access mode, how much size, the storage with how much size I need and with what access mode I need? Can I define that? While creating a PVC, I can specify the size and the access mode. I will explain what is these access modes later. What do you mean by read write once? What do you mean by read only many? What do you mean by read write many? I will explain later. So PVC is a request for a storage. We can specify size and access mode. How much size you need, how much access you need. Does PVC, as a user, you are requesting how much size you need, what size of capacity you need, what access mode you need. But for you, does it matter in the background whether they are providing any type of storage, like maybe local storage or network storage or cloud storage? Does that matter for you when you are deploying the application? You are focusing only, I need a storage. But as an administrator, can I provide of whatever storage of choice? Maybe I can provide a storage like a local storage or network storage or cloud storage. That is up to administrators. You just need a storage. The guys who is deploying the applications need a storage. For them, does it matter whether they are giving a host path storage, whether you are getting a NFS storage or EBS storage? Does that matter for you? You just need a storage. You are requesting. As an administrator, can I provide a storage of my choice, whether it's a local or network or cloud, any storage for that request? Yes. So PVC is just a request for a storage. PVC is just a request for a storage. While creating this PVC, we can specify how much storage you need, with what access mode you need. We can specify. The guys who is deploying the application, they can create a PVC. Then can they use that PVC as a value in their pod manifest? In the pod manifest, they can use that PVC. Let me show that. Let me connect to my Kubernetes machine. Let me connect to my Kubernetes machine. Yesterday also we are using values. But yesterday when I am using values, did I directly mention like host path, or did I directly mention like NFS like this? This is not persistent values. This is not persistent values because does Kubernetes is maintaining any information about this volume data? I mean to say what, how many volumes are there, what type of volumes, nowhere it is maintaining. So it is not recommended to use like this. It is recommended to use persistent volumes or persistent volume claims concept. Now if it is a persistent volume claims and persistent volumes, suppose I am deploying this application. I am deploying this application. Here, instead of doing like this, can I say persistent volume claim, persistent volume claim, and I can mention claim name, like a something like this. And also, do I need to create this persistent volume claim object also? Because in which I am going to mention how much storage I need, what type of access mode I need. So do I need to create a persistent volume claim object? Because I need a value, so I am creating a claim and I am referring that claim. So do I need to create a persistent volume claim like this? API version v1 kind persistent volume claim metadata, name of the persistent volume claim. So this is the claim name which I am using in my pod. Now spec. Here can I specify size, how much size, I mean to say how much storage I need for this claim. Basically, as I already told, persistent volume claim is a request for a storage. Using PVC, we can specify or we can request how much storage you need, how much, what type of access mode you need. That I can specify using PVC. Using PVC, I can specify what type of access mode, how much storage you need. That I can specify using this PVC. In the PVC specification, something like this. Access modes, requests. So requests, that is under resources again. Resources, under resources request. But storage, this is storage. Can I say something like this? Storage based on my requirement. Let's say I need 1 GB storage. Can I say something like this? I am looking for a value with 1 GB storage. For this application, I am trying to use this PVC. I am creating a PVC request for value saying that I need 1 GB storage and access modes. In some time, I will explain what is this access modes also. Access modes like read, write, once access mode. So this is a request for a storage. The guys who is deploying, can they use persistent volume claims? Now let's say I am trying to deploy this application, stateful application. Instead of using the volumes directly, can I use the concept of persistent volume claim here? So I am saying persistent volume claim, this is my claim name. Since I need a value, do I need to specify using this PVC? Do I need to specify how much storage I need, how much, what is the access mode I need? Because I need a value, I need to specify. Now, I am requesting this much. Now, do I need to have a value available in my Kubernetes cluster so that that value will be associated with this PVC? I need to have a PV, that persistent volume available, so that if any volume available, any storage, any volume available with this much capacity, 1 GB capacity with this access mode, is that volume will be mapped with this PVC? Is your pod will use that volume, whatever it is going to get? Yes. Now, PVC is just a request for a storage. Is it represents any storage? Is this PVC directly represents any storage? That can be host path, that can be NFS, that can be EBS? No. This is just a request for a storage. Then which Kubernetes object represents the storage? We are just requesting using this PVC. Which object represents the actual storage? That is persistent value. That is persistent value. Now, persistent value basically a storage. Persistent value is basically a piece of storage. It's a piece of storage. Persistent value is basically it's a piece of storage. It's a piece of storage disk. That can be anything. That can be host path value, or that host path storage, or that can be NFS storage, that can be EBS storage, anything. So this persistent value represents some storage. That can be host path, NFS, EBS, whatever it is, etc. Now, when we are requesting a value using this volume claim, do I need to have a volumes available in my cluster? Do I need to have a volumes available in my cluster so that this PVC will be associated with that PV? This PVC will be associated with that PV, whatever volume is available. But does it matter whether it's a host path, whether it's a NFS, whether it's a EBS? Does that matters here? I just need a storage with that much. Now, as an administrator, can I create a volumes? Can I create a volumes and make it available for the users who need a volumes? As a Kubernetes administrator, can I create the volumes in my Kubernetes cluster, and can I make that available to the users who is going to claim those volumes? As an administrator, I can manage volumes. I can create and make those volumes available to the people. Whoever is claiming the volumes based on that requirements, based on their requirements, if there are volumes available, is that PVC will be mapped with that respective PV which is available and which is matching with their requirements with this much storage, this access mode. If the volumes are available, is that volume will be mapped with that PVC? Is your party is going to use that value whatever is allocated as per that requirement? Yes. This way, are you abstracting the storage away from your pods and your users of Kubernetes? Using these persistent value claims and persistent values, are you abstracting the storage away from your pods or the users of the top Kubernetes, like a developers, DevOps engineers? Are you taking the storage abstraction away from them? You have a full control how to manage the storage for your Kubernetes stateful applications. So this is the recommended way. This is the recommended way. As of now, if you see, do I have any persistent values, persistent value claims? kubectl get PV. What do you mean by PV in the short form? What do you mean by PV in the short form? Persistent values. What do you mean by PVC in the short form? Persistent value claim. So these are Kubernetes resources. These two are also Kubernetes resources. The way we have pods, the way we have services, the way we have deployments, replica sets. Do I have a Kubernetes resource called persistent value and persistent value claim? These two. Yes. If you see persistent value namespace, it is false. What does it mean? Is a persistent value is a cluster level resource irrespective of namespace. It's not a namespace level resource. It's a cluster level resource. It's a cluster level resource. That is storage. Does that persistent value represent some storage? That can be host path storage, that can be NFS storage or EBS storage. Yes. So I can create a storages. I can create that values in the cluster. Can any namespace, can any namespace from any namespace, if someone is requesting that values using claim, irrespective of in which namespace that persistent values are there, does any namespace also will be allocated with that value? Yes. Now persistent value claim is namespace scope, which means suppose I am creating a persistent value claim in default namespace. Will I able to use that in the namespace like this? Now will I able to use that persistent value claim in this namespace in my pods? No. So persistent value claim is namespace level. Suppose I want to use this persistent value here, PVC, that Mongo PVC. I am creating a pods in this namespace. I need to make sure this PVC also created in the same namespace where my pods are getting created. PVC, yes. PVC, yes. You need to have in a same namespace where you are using that PVC. This is not for a communication. This is storage. This is storage. This is not for a communication. That FQDN is only communication. This is storage. Your request for a storage. So I am creating a pod. Do I need to also create a request for the storage in the same namespace? I am requesting a pod and I am referring this PVC. So in the same namespace, I am creating that PVC. Now suppose I have PVs. Suppose I have this persistent value. Let's say I have one persistent value in default namespace. I have another persistent value in test namespace. Does this matter? Now, is it possible that this PVC this PVC may get one value which is there in default namespace also? Is it possible that does this PVC might be allocated with the PV which is in default namespace also? Yes. But does this PV should be available? Conditions. First, this PV should be available. The volume should be available. What do you mean by available? If this volume is already mapped, this volume is already mapped with some other PVC, again, will you able to get the same PV if this volume is already mapped with some other PVC? No. So one thing, volume should be available. Volume should be available. And does the requirements of this claim, suppose these guys are looking for 1 GB and with this access mode, one condition, the volume should be available. Next condition, let's say I have a volume with 2 GI and I have a access mode, different access mode, read write many access mode, read write many access mode. This volume is available, but this volume is available, but this is in a different access mode, read write many access mode. Then do you think does Kubernetes will assign this value for this claim? Does Kubernetes will assign this storage for this claim? If this is the case, you are requesting 1 GB with this access mode, but there is a storage available with 2 GB with this access mode. Do you think this will be available? I mean to say assigned for this claim? No. Suppose I have 2 GI. This is already used, which means this is already allocated, which means this is already allocated to some other PVC. Access mode is read write once only, read write once only, but this is already mapped with some other PVC, mapped with some other PVC. Do you think does Kubernetes will assign this value to this claim again? Some other PVC it is allocated. Do you think it will work? No. Now let's say I have one more value that is available, that is available, The storage is created with the 2 GB, that volume is created with 2 GB, but I am requesting 1 GB. But still, access mode is also fine. Storage available, I mean to say I created with the 2 GB that volume, but I am requesting only 1 GB. But is that issues? I mean to say, is there any issue with this one? No. Does Kubernetes will map this? Does Kubernetes will map this volume for this claim? Yes, it will map, but you have 1 more GB available. Will you able to claim that 1 more GB using different PVC again? No, no, it's one-to-one mapping, which means one PVC will be allocated with one PV at any point of time. It is like a one-to-one mapping, one PVC, one PV, and vice versa, vice versa. So it is like a one-to-one mapping. PVC to PV is like a one-to-one mapping, one-to-one mapping. So even though you have a storage with 2 GI, you are requesting 1 GB, Kubernetes will assign this volume for that PVC. Kubernetes will assign or map this volume for that PVC. Is there any other PVC which again I can map with this volume? No. Okay. So PVC is a request for a volume. PVC is a request for a volume. Does that PVC need to have PVs available in the Kubernetes cluster so that PVCs will be mapped with PV? So when you are creating a pod, when you are creating a pod in your Kubernetes, you are deploying one application, you are deploying one application, you are deploying one stateful application. Let's say you are deploying one stateful application. Do you need to deploy your controller? I mean to say that controller can be RS or RC or deployment, that doesn't matter. Along with that one, in my deployment manifest or in my pod manifest, I can say, is it recommended to use like this? Instead of directly mentioning the volumes, is it recommended to use like this? In my pod manifest, it is recommended to use like this. Like this. Volumes, persistent volume claim. But since you are requesting for a storage, you are referring a persistent volume claim, do you need to create a PVC also? If I don't create this PVC, do you think will it work? Will you get a message saying that no persistent volume claim found with this name? Let's say you don't have any PVC created already with this name. Do you get a message saying that no persistent volume claim found with this name? Your pods will not be created. It will throw error saying that without this PVC created, your pod will not work. First, in your pod manifest, what you are referring? In your pod manifest, what you are referring a PVC. Suppose if this PVC is not created, do you think your pod will get scheduled? First, no. So you will get a message saying that PVC not found. Now you are creating a PVC also because that is your requirement. That is your requirement. Since you are deploying the application, you know what type of storage I need, how much storage I need. So you are going to create a PVC also like this. You are going to create a PVC also like this. Along with your pod, you are going to create a PVC. So this is PVC. Your pods are referring PVC. But without PV, does this works again? Without persistent volumes, again, does this work? Without persistent volumes, does this work again? No. So you need a values. You need a values, that persistent values. So as a Kubernetes admin, can I create lot of persistent volumes and make it available for the users? of my Kubernetes who need a values for their applications. As an admin, I can create a values. I can create a values. Let's consider you don't have values available. You don't have a values available. Then do you think does this pod get scheduled? I mean to say, does this pod will be running successfully if there are no values available? If there are no values available, it won't work. Now you need to have a values. Then how to create these values? This can be done two ways. This can be done two ways. There are two types of values here. There are two types of persistent values here. It's very important concept and interesting concept also. Persistent value is a piece of storage in the cluster that has been provisioned by an administrator. That has been provisioned by an administrator. What do you mean by administrator? Administrator is like a DevOps engineer, the guys who is managing the Kubernetes cluster. Suppose you are managing the Kubernetes cluster. Can I call you as an administrator? So this persistent values can be created. These persistent values can be provisioned in the sense created by an administrator manually. By an administrator manually, static values. Static values. What do you mean by static persistent values? The values created by admins manually. Manually. This is static persistent values created by administrators. That administrator can be a DevOps engineer or DevOps guy. Basically, developers will not be our administrators. Developers will never become an administrators. Does developers becomes users of Kubernetes because they want to use Kubernetes to deploy their applications? The developers are like a users of that Kubernetes who wants to deploy their applications in Kubernetes. So we will not give permissions to manage a lot of things for developers. So as an admin, can I create a values and can I make those values available to the developers so that they can request like this, they can refer like this in their application? Yes. Now, these are static values created by administrators manually, manual values. There is a one more type called dynamic values. What do you mean by dynamic values? What do you mean by dynamic values? Automatically creating a storages, automatically creating a values. So this dynamic values, dynamically provisioning using storage class. There is a one more concept called storage class. Provisioning in the sense creating values dynamically using storage class. Storage class is one software, kind of one program. Storage class. What do you mean by storage class in Kubernetes again? Storage class is kind of one kind of a driver. To make it simple, kind of a driver. The storage driver, some piece of software. So if I have storage class configured, whenever someone is requesting for a PVC, whenever someone is creating a PVC, let's say we don't have any values available. We don't have any values available, but I have configured the storage class, some kind of a provisioner, some kind of a driver. Is that storage class, is the driver is going to create a values dynamically? Yes. So there are two types of values. One is static values. Static values in the sense as a Kubernetes admin, you are creating values manually so that claims can use those values. Another one is dynamic values. Let's say I don't want to manually manage the values. Can I configure a storage class, kind of a driver or provisioner, which will provision the storage for us whenever anyone is requesting for a value? via claim, does that values can be automatically created by that storage class? Yes. So let's say I don't have any values available. Let's say I don't have any values available. Someone is requesting a claim. They are referring that claim in the pod. They are referring that claim in the pod like this. They are referring the claims in the pod like this. They are referring the claims in the pod like this. And at the same time, they are creating a PVC like this. This is PVC. Now, this PV, Kubernetes will try to assign one value. Let's say if I don't have any values available, then it won't work. Then it won't work if you don't have any values available. You need to create these values manually. If there is no storage class configured, you need to create these values manually. Does Kubernetes will assign the value based on the specifications in this PVC, based on the storage we created here? Does Kubernetes will map one of the value? Let's say I have value created manually with this size like 1 GB or 2 GB. The size of this volume is 2 GB, and let's say access mode is read write once. Access mode is read write once. I created this manually. Does this PVC will be assigned with this PV if they are matching the specifications? Yes. This is manual you need to create. But let's say you don't have a values available. You don't have a values available in the cluster. It won't work. But if there is a storage class configured, storage class is like one driver, one software. If I have storage class configured, basically provisioner, it is going to provision the storage. Simple guys. If I have a storage class configured, storage class is nothing but it is going to provision the storage. Now, if I have a storage class configured, if this PVC is not able to find any PV, does this storage class will create a PV object dynamically? Is it going to create that persistent volume dynamically by the storage class? Then, does this volume claim is mapped with this value? The storage class will provision this value. So this PVC will be assigned with this PV. Similarly, if some other one is requesting again PVC, if some other application, other team is requesting a PVC for their pod, and again there is no values available for this PVC, again the storage class will provision the volume dynamically. That PV will be provisioned dynamically. Is this gets associated with this one? If you have a storage class configured, as an administrator, do I need to create values myself manually? As an administrator, do I need to create and manage the values myself manually? No. The storage class will manage values for you automatically. Yes. But does pods can directly use values, guys? Does pods can directly use values like this? No. Pods cannot use values directly like this. Pods will use PVC. Does PVC will be getting a value for that pod? Does PVC is acting as a bridge? Does this PVC is acting as a bridge between your pod and storage? Yes. So theoretically, is everyone clear what is PV, what is PVC, what is static value, what is dynamic value, how it works? Theoretically, is everyone clear? This is very, very important. Now, as of now, if you ask me, do I have any storage class configured in this Kubernetes cluster? Storage class is also one Kubernetes API. Storage class also is one Kubernetes API. API resources. Do I have a concept called storage class here? Do I have an object called storage class? If I grep somewhere, you can see that storage class. Storage class here in the bottom. So storage class. This is also one Kubernetes resource. As of now, do I have any storage class in the short form SC, or you can use something like this storage classes? Do I have any storage class or storage classes by default here? No, there is no provisioner configured here. But when I go for a managed Kubernetes clusters like EKS, when I go for a managed Kubernetes clusters like EKS, AKS, GKE, do I have some default storage classes configured in that cluster already? Yes. So there will be some provisioners. There will be some provisioners. If I go for managed Kubernetes cluster like EKS, what is the storage class or provisioner which I will have by default? That provisioner, basically storage class or provisioner, I will have EBS provisioner, EBS provisioner, which means whenever anyone is requesting a claim, whenever anyone is requesting a volume via claim, so am I going to get EBS volumes? Is that a storage class? Is that EBS provisioner is going to create a EBS volume in the cloud? And is that EBS volume will be used by your pod via that PVC? If I have a Kubernetes clusters like EKS, EBS provisioner will be there. So I'm going to get EBS volumes created in the cloud, in your AWS cloud. You have that EBS volumes created. That EBS volume will be used by your pod with the help of PVC. So if I go for a AKS cluster, do I have some provisioners? Azure file and Azure disk. Two provisioners will be there. Both provisioners. Both provisioners will be there. So you will have Azure file as well as Azure disk, two types of provisioners. Now, let's say if I have more than one storage classes, can I mark one storage class as default if required? If I have more than one storage class, more than one provisioner, can I mark one as a default storage class? Now, while creating a PVC, while creating a PVC, I am not mentioning the storage class name. So is the default storage class will be used to create a value for this PVC? Suppose I am not mentioning the storage class, which storage class to be used? Is it going to create a value by that whatever storage class I marked as default for this? Yes. If required, can I mention the storage class name also along with all these details? Can I mention the storage class name also? If there are multiple storage classes, multiple provisioners like this Azure file, Azure disk like this, if I have, can I mention here itself? So is this storage class will create a value for this claim? But do I need to have this storage class available in the cluster, created and configured in this cluster with this name? Otherwise, again, it will not work. Otherwise, again, it will not work. Now, as of now, this is self-managed Kubernetes cluster. This is self-managed Kubernetes cluster. Do I have any storage classes configured by default? No. Now, if I just create a PVC and I am referring that PVC here, do you think you will get a storage for this claim? No. Let me show that. Let me show that. Now let me show that. I'll slowly make things clear. Now I don't want to do like this. I don't want to do like this. I want to use that concept of persistent values. Now here, instead of defining what type of volume storage you want to use, can I use a concept called persistent volume claim? I'm talking about this piece. I'm talking about this one, persistent volume claim. I'm talking about this one. Can I use something like this? Persistent volume claim. in my pod manifest, instead of using like this host path NFS like this, can I use this one here in my pod manifest? Persistent value claim, persistent value claim, claim name, claim name. I can give some name like this, Mongo, any name, Mongo PVC. But do I have this PVC created? Do I have this PVC created as of now? No. But is this will be done automatically by storage class, or administrator will create this PVC? Or storage class will create this PVC? Or administrator will create this PVC? No. So it is a request for storage. Do you need to specify how much storage you need for that application, that volume, what type of access mode you need? Do you need to create that PVC? I mean to say, the guy who is managing or deploying this application, the guy who is deploying and managing this application, do they need to create a PVC by specifying how much storage they need, how much, what type of access mode they need? Or this will be done by administrators or storage classes, that PVC creation? PVC, the guys who is requesting a volume or who is using the volume, they need to create. Now, without creating that PVC, if I refer this PVC in my pod manifesto, do you think it will work? Let me show that. I'll show step by step. I'll show step by step so that you can understand easily the relation. First, let me delete the existing application. In this existing replica set, am I directly using volume, like kind of a directly volumes, host path NFS directly? Yes. So I don't want to do that. I'm deleting this. I'm deleting that replica set, the existing replica set. Now, let me deploy using this PVC concept now. Let me deploy using this PVC concept. kubectl apply -f. Now, if you see, I created a replica set, and replica set is creating a pod. Now pod is in which state now? That database pod is in which state? The status pending. What could be the reason? That there might be many reasons. There might be many reasons. That can be because of CPU or memory, or that can be because of storage now. Now, how can I see what is the reason why it is in pending state? Now, I will describe the pod. Describe pod, my pod name, I'll describe. The pod is in this namespace. Now what it is saying? 0 by 3 nodes are available. What it is saying? That PVC not found. Because in my pod manifest, am I referring persistent volume claim type, volumes type, persistent volume claim, a reference to the persistent volume claim in the same namespace? Do I have this PVC in the same namespace where my pod is created, in which I am referring this PVC? So do I have a PVC with that name? Do I have a PVC with that name in that namespace? Do I have any PVC? No. But does this PVC has to be created by the guys who is deploying the application? Because based upon their requirements only, they will specify how much storage they need, what type of access mode they need. The guys who is deploying that applications in the cluster, it is not an administrator's job. So along with like this, they need to create one more Kubernetes resource also, where they can elaborate more about that persistent volume claim, where they will specify the size, the access mode, like this, persistent volume claim, like this. But same namespace. So let's say I create this PVC in a different namespace. Again, will it throw same error? PVC with this name not found again. If I create this PVC in a different namespace, yes. I'm creating in a same namespace where I'm specifying storage 1 GB, access mode 1 GB. But if I mention the storage class, do I have any storage class which can create this volume for us? Volume for this PVC? No, there is no storage class. Now I'm just creating a PVC. I'm just creating a PVC with that name. Now kubectl apply -f spring app PVC. Now if you see, now do I have a PVC? Do I have a PVC created in that namespace? Now if you see the status of this PVC, if you see the status of this PVC, again, in what state that PVC is there? Now, even though I created a PVC, why still my pod is in pending state? Even though I created a PVC now, why my pod is in still pending state? I have a PVC, but still my pod is in pending state. Because is this PVC is waiting for PV volume? Is that PVC is waiting for volume? Now, do I have any volumes available in the cluster? Persistent volumes available in the cluster? No. At least, is there any storage class available so that it will provision that volume? It is going to create that PV object dynamically? No. Now, if you see, let me describe the pod. Let me describe the pod. Now, you see different message. You see different message after some time. Mongo PVC. What is the name of that PVC? Mongo. There is a typo, guys. There is a typo error. Let me modify that because there is a typo here. Here it is VPC. Here it is PVC. So let me modify that. I'll delete that. I'll delete that PVC. I'll delete that PVC. This one. I'll create with correct name. I'll create with correct name. Now there is a typo. Here I am referring Mongo PVC. Here I have created with a different name. Now I am creating a PVC with whatever name I am referring here. 1 second. Mongo PVC. Now let me apply this again. kubectl apply. Now I have a PVC also now. I have a PVC with this name, Mongo PVC. Now that PVC I am referring in my pod, Mongo PVC. If you see, still pod is in pending state. Still pod is in pending state. Why it is in pending state? Let me describe my pod. Let me describe my pod. If you see now, you see different error. What it is trying to say? Now, what it is trying to say? Is there still typo? 1 second, guys. Is there still typo error? In this test namespace, I have Mongo. 1 second, guys. I have still not modified. 1 second. kubectl delete PVC. This is Mongo PVC. Here, Mongo PVC. Correct. There is no typo. But let's see. After some time, you describe your pod. It is saying could not found binding problem. So Mongo PVC is there. Mongo PVC is there in the default the test namespace. We have Mongo PVC in the test namespace, but it is having a problem with the binding. What do you mean by binding? Now you see this error. Now what do you mean by this error? It has a immediate unbound persistent volume claims. Now I see some message called unbound immediate persistent volume claims. Unbound immediate persistent volume claims. What do you mean by this error? Pod is referring PVC. PVC is there, but is that PVC has bounded with any value? Is that PVC is bounded with any value? Is that PVC is in pending state? If you see that, is that PVC in pending state now? Now, why it is in pending state? Let me describe PVC. Let me describe this PVC. You can describe PVC also. Now, no persistent values available for this claim. It is saying no persistent values available for this claim. And also what they're saying, no storage class set. There is no values available and no storage class set, which means there is no storage class set. In that PVC object, there is no storage class set. Even though I define storage class, do I have any storage class configured in my cluster here? If I say something like storage class EBS provisioner or NFS provisioner like that, do I have the storage class configured like this? No. So there is no storage class available and marked as default, and at the same time no values available. Now, is my pod will get any storage now? Does my pod will get scheduled and is my pod will get storage now? No. Now, as a Kubernetes admin, I have two options here. As a Kubernetes admin, I have two options. One is creating a values statically, that is manual values, and another option, can I configure a storage class and can I mark that as a default storage class so that the values will be created by that storage class? There are two options. First, let me create a values manually, which means the way I am creating this PVC, as an admin, do I need to create a PV, the static values, in the sense manually you create a value, persistent value you need to create. So can I specify persistent values here? What type of value I want to create as an admin? Can I create a value? Whether I can use host path, NFS, based on your setup. Based on your setup, you can create a persistent value based on your infrastructure. Now, can I create a PV like this? Whatever, something like this, NFS PV, or this name can be anything, ABC, XYZ, that doesn't matter. NFS PV, something like this. Now, here, this is persistent value claim persistent value specification. Here, can I say capacity, the capacity of this value? Now here it is not resources, it is capacity of this value. It is not resources, capacity of this storage. Now I'm saying something like this, 1 GB or 2 GB, the capacity of this value. Now here, access modes, the type of access modes. The access modes, there are different types: read, write, many, read, write once, like that. Read, write, many. I'm saying read, write, many. Now this can be anything. Here, can I say this is persistent value of NFS? Can I do something like this as an admin? Can I create a NFS persistent values? If required, can I create a EBS persistent values? Or can I create a host path persistent values as an admin? What type of storage I want to offer in this cluster, that is under my control. What type of storage I want to offer in this cluster, that is under my control. We are abstracting that away from the users of Kubernetes. I mean to say the guys who is deploying the Kubernetes. Now I can say NFS server, whatever my NFS server. Yesterday itself we configured NFS server. So can I use that NFS server IP address to create this persistent value? This NFS server, private IP address, and whatever path. What path? That NFS server, I think that is /mnt/nfs_share. So using this manifest, I am creating a values as an admin. Let's say you are admin. Can I call this as a static values? You are manually creating a persistent values in the cluster. Can I call this as a static value? Now I'll create a values. I'll create a values nfs pv dot yaml, just sorry, nfs pv dot yaml, something like this. But there is some indentation problem. But as I already told, is this values are namespace specific? These persistent values are namespace specific? No. Even though I have a value created as an admin, I have a value created in a different namespace. The claim which is created in a different namespace also can get this value. Yes. Even though as an admin you are creating this value in a default namespace, the claim which is waiting for the value in a different namespace will be allocated with this value even though this is in a different namespace. The values are not namespace level, it's a cluster level. So that is possible. Now if you observe, even though I am creating a PV now as an admin, kubectl apply -f, I am creating a value. Now I have a value. If you see, even though I have not mentioned -n test, am I able to see value? Without mentioning -n also am I able to see value? Because as I already told, these values are bound to namespace level. No. Now, even though value is created, why my PVC is still not able to get this value? Why my PVC is still pending? Why it is not associated with this value? Storage class. There is no storage class concept here. Storage class is to create a values dynamically. I created a value manually. It is not because of storage class. It is not because of storage class. Storage class is just to create a values dynamically. Now I have created a value manually. Why this PVC is not associated with this PV? What is the reason? How PV and PVC will get associated? This is also one question. How PVC and PVC will get associated? That is also one question. Now exact answer is because of the what I am looking with what actually available, is it same? Actually, whatever I am looking, the PVC which I created, what I am looking is with same thing, is volume is created or available in my cluster? No. In my requirement, did I am looking for 1 GB storage. As per my PVC, I am looking for 1 GB storage. With what access mode? With what access mode? Read write once. But I have a PV. I have a PV. I have a PV. But if you see this PV, persistent value in YML format also you can see, is that persistent value capacity is 2 GB. Fine. Capacity is 2 GB. Fine, no issues. I have it more than this much, whatever I'm looking. But why it is not mapping? Because of the access modes. This value is what type of access mode? That persistent value which we created manually. What access mode? Read write many. But the PVC which we are looking, the PVC is looking for what type of value? What access mode? Read write once. Because of that, is Kubernetes is mapping that PVC with this PV even though that PV is available? No. Now, how PV and PVC gets associated? This is also an important interview question. How PV and PVC gets associated with each other? That is depends on access modes and storage. That is depends on access mode and storage. First, your volume should be available. The volume should be available, then the capacity and access modes should match. Even though I have more capacity, is that fine? Even though I have a PV with 2 GB, I am requesting 1 GB, is that fine? Yes. But let's consider reverse. Let's consider reverse. I have a volume with 1 GB, but I am looking for 2 GB. Do you think is that volume gets associated with that PVC? No. So is everyone clear how PV and PVC gets associated? How PV and PVC gets associated? Let's say they may go to the next level. Let's say I have a lot of volumes available with access modes also matching, capacity also matching, then how it will assign? I have 3-4 PVs available, access modes also matching, capacity also matching, then which one it will avail, which one it will map? Randomly, randomly, randomly it will assign. Guys, are you getting my question? Let's say I have multiple persistent volumes available with same access mode and capacity also matching, and all the volumes are available, then which one will get associated for that PVC? If I have multiple volumes available, randomly it will pick randomly. But is there any option to pick specific one? Is there an option to pick specific one again? Yes. What concept you need to use again here? Selectors concept, labels and selectors concept again. Can I create a persistent volume with labels? Can I create a persistent volume with labels? And can I use those labels as a selectors in my PVC? Can I use that labels as a selectors in my PVC? That way it will work. That way it will work. If you want to pick specific persistent value, but that doesn't matter here. That doesn't matter. You just need a storage. You no need to pick specific unless until your access mode and your storage is matching. That can be any value. Now, since it is not matching, even though volume is available, is my PVC is mapped with that volume? If you see, PVC is still pending state. Even though I have a value, my pod is still pending. My pod is still pending. So if you have these type of issues encountered, as a DevOps engineer, as an administrator, if you are working as a DevOps engineer, you are working, you need to troubleshoot and understand what is what. If you want to troubleshoot, do you need to know each and every concept we are discussing here, like what is volume, what is PVC, what is PV, what is resource request limits, pods, services, deployments, all these concepts you should be familiar. Now, let me create a one more PVC. Oh, sorry, let me create a one more PV. That can be any type. That can be any type. Just to demonstrate, I am creating a host path PV. I am creating a host path PV. Now here, the name doesn't matter here. This can be any name. Now here, instead of doing like this, can I create a persistent volume with this access mode, read write once, maybe 2 GB, 1 GB. Now here, that can be NFS, that can be any other thing. Now can I do something like this? Host path or NFS or EBS, whatever storage. If it is a host path, there is no server here. Path, that path can be anything. That path can be anything. Something like this, Mongo or Mongo DB data, something like this. Now I am creating a host path PV. Host path PV. Let me apply that PV. This is again static value only. As an admin, I am creating a value. Now, if you see, the moment I create that PV, is it claimed? Is that claimed? Is that claim mapped with this PV? Whatever PV I just created now, whatever claim it was pending for so long, is that associated with this PV? How come it is associated? Because is it matching with that access mode? Is that matching with that access mode? read write once access mode. And also I am looking for 1 GB, but here the capacity of the storage is how much? 2 GB. That is fine. Now this PV is associated with this PVC. Is this PVC is used in your pod? Is this PVC is referenced in your pod? So is that pod is using this volume now to store, read and write the data from this volume? Now if you see, is my pod is in running state now? Is my pod is in running state now? If you see the pod, kubectl get all. Now do you see his pod is in running state now? Because your pod is using PVC, PVC is mapped with PV. Now my pod is in running state. One more PVC is still available. One more PV is still available. Suppose if any other application want to claim this one, can they claim based on the access modes and capacity? Yes. But this is static value. This is static value. But is it possible for me to have a storage class? I mean to say some kind of a provisioner configured as an admin, so that I no need to create these volumes. That volumes will be dynamically created whenever any application is waiting for PV. PVC will be that PVC is in pending state, and if I have a storage class, volume will be automatically created. What do you mean by automatically created? Is this objects gets automatically created by that storage class if I have a storage class? But what type of storage that will offer? What type of storage that will offer? Whether it will offer NFS, whether it will offer host path, whether it is offer EBS, that depends on what? That depends of the provisioner which we are using in that storage class. Suppose I am using EBS provisioner, is that storage class is always going to provision EBS values? If I am using EBS provisioner in that storage class, is that storage class always going to provision EBS values? Yes. Let's say I'm using different storage provisioner like Azure file, Azure disk. Is that storage class is going to provision that respective storages in the cloud? Yes. So that is how the dynamic volumes works. Before I explain the storage class, now let's understand one important concept here: access modes. Access modes. Access modes. Another one is reclaim policies. Another one is reclaim policies. Access modes and reclaim policy or policies. Access modes. What type of access modes we have in Kubernetes? These persistent volume claims. Read write once, read write many, read only many, like this. RWO in the short form. What is the full form of RWO? Read write once. What is the another? RWX? Read write many. ROX. What is this ROX? Read only many. Read only many. Now Kubernetes has introduced one more access mode. One more access mode, one more type of access modes. You have a lot of access modes like this: read write once, read only many, read write many, and one more access mode they have introduced, but not all the volumes supports this one. Not all the volumes supports this one. Read write once pod. Read write once pod. So this type of access mode is introduced recently in the Kubernetes 1.2 version, but not all the volumes supports. Not all the volumes supports this type of access mode. This RWOP. This RWOP, read write once pod. This is not going to support all the types of volumes. What do you mean by volume here? Like EBS, EFS, NFS, host path, Azure file, Azure disk. Can I call these as a volumes? Yes, but not all the volumes supports this access mode. Not all the volumes supports this access mode. So these access modes is again depends on what type of volume, what type of storage you are using. First, let's understand what do you mean by read write once. What do you mean by read write once? So the read write once access mode, the volume can be mounted as a read and write by a single node. Single node. Suppose I have a read write once access mode volume. What does it mean? Let's say I am having one pod here. That pod can read and write the data to that read write once access mode. Is it possible like two pods running on the same node also can use that volume, that PVC and PV, same PVC and same PV? Is that possible if they are running in a same node? Read write once access mode. Read write once access mode. If you understand read write once access mode, the volume can be mounted as a read write by a single node. Don't confuse with node and pod. They are saying the volume can be mounted as a read write by a single node. Read write once access mode can still allow multiple pods to access the volume, but when the pods are running on the same node, which means, is this possible? Two pods can use same PVC and same PV if they are running in a same node. If they are running in a same node, is these two pods can use same PVC, same PV? Read write once access mode. But is this possible? Is this possible? Now the pod is running in this node. Does this pod and this pod can use this PVC and PV, same PVC and PV by these two pods? No. Read write once. Read write once, basically like this only. Now again, does all the volume supports all these things? Read write once, read write many, read only many. Like there are a lot of volumes like host path, NFS, EBS, EFS. Does everyone supports all these access modes? Again, no. Now, what do you mean by read write many? What do you mean by read write many? Read write many access mode. Read write many. Can I mount the volume as a read write by many nodes also? If that volume access mode is read write many, is this possible? Is this possible? If the volume access mode is read write many, is this possible? Yes. Multiple pods, even though they are running in a different nodes also, can use same PVC and associated PV. This one, and also this one can use same PVCs and respective PV if the access mode is read write many. Read write many. Read and write. What do you mean by read only many? What do you mean by read only many? Same thing, but pods can only read the data from this volume. But does this pods will have a permissions to write the data to this volume, to this storage? But whatever data, pre-configured or preloaded data, pre-configured or preloaded data, will I able to read the data? Whatever data I have pre-configured, preloaded in this storage, will I able to read the data from this pod? Multiple pods simultaneously. But does this pods will have a permissions to write the data? No. So that is read only many. That is read only many. Now Kubernetes has introduced one more type of access mode, read write once pod. Read write once pod, which means only one pod. Is this also possible? Even though pods are running in same node, if the access mode is read write once pod, is this possible? Even though they're running in a same node, is that possible? If it is a read write once pod, if the access mode is read write once pod, read write once pod, understand the question. If the access mode is read write once pod, can I have multiple pods using the same PVC PV if this access mode is read write once pod? No. So only one pod, only one pod, only one pod. That is read write once pod. But again, does all these things will be supported by all types of volumes, whatever have like host path, NFS, EBS? Azure file, Azure disk. Does everything supports all these access modes? Azure file, Azure disk like this. Is everything supports all these access modes? Does all these volume supports all these access modes? No. Not only this read write ones also. Apart from this one, don't think this will be supported by everyone. Now, host path. Host path. Is these two possible? Can I create a host path value with read write x, read only many? Is that possible if I use a host path value? Is it going to support that read write many, read only many? If it is a host path, the name itself it is saying host path. Is that possible? No. And also EBS guys. EBS. You guys already used EBS when we are using AWS EC2 instances. If I am using EBS value for my pods, will I able to use that EBS value as a read write many or read only many access modes? Is that possible? When I am using EBS values also, is that possible to use with access mode read write many, read only many? Because does EBS can be mounted or attached with multiple nodes? Can we attach with multiple nodes, multiple servers that EBS value? No. So is it going to support? Is it going to support last two, that EBS? Is it going to support these access modes, read write x, read only many? No. But if I go for an NFS or EFS, NFS or EFS, does that NFS or EFS supports all these three? Read write ones, read only many, read write many also? NFS or EFS? Yes. If I am using Azure, this Azure file is like NFS. This Azure file is like NFS. In AWS, you have a EFS. In Azure, we have Azure file. Does that Azure file supports all these three? Read write ones, read write many, read only many? Again, so that is how it works. You can see the table also here. Access modes table. Read write ones, read only many. The value. If I am using AWS Block Store, is it going to support these three? If I am using EBS type of storage, do you think is it going to support these three? No, only read write ones. But when I am using Azure file, is it supporting those three? Read write ones, read only many, read write many. This Azure disk is like a EBS in AWS, right? This Azure disk is like a EBS in Azure, kind of a block storage. Again, is this Azure disk is supporting all those three? No. So this FFS, this NFS, if suppose if I'm using NFS, is it supporting those three? But if you see this this read write one spot, this read write one spot, only this type of drivers, CSI drivers, only supporting that read write one spot. This is recently introduced. Okay. So is everyone clear? What do you mean by access mode? What is read write once? What is read write many? What is read write one spot? And what type of volume supports which access mode? Is everyone clear? Now let's say you have this type of requirement. I want to use same storage for multiple pods. I want to use same storage for multiple pods. That pods are running in a different nodes. Then do I need to go for a read write many access mode supported volumes, kind of a shared volumes? If you have that type of requirement, yes. Now the way we have a access modes, the way we have a access modes, there is a one more concept called the reclaim policies. There is a one more concept called reclaim policies. If you see, when I see this PV, when I see this PV, do I have something called reclaim policy? Do I have something called reclaim policy here on the persistent volumes? We have reclaim policy like retain and recycle, delete. We have reclaim policies, retain, recycle, and delete. Retain, recycle, delete. What do you mean by these reclaim policies? When you are deleting the PVCs, what should happen with associated PV? Suppose I deleted this application. I don't want to run this database anymore. I deleted that application and I am going to delete this PVC also. I deleted this application completely. But if I delete that controller, do you think this PVC will get deleted? If you delete that replica set, do you think the associated PVC will be deleted? Whatever PVC you are using, is that PVC will be deleted if you deleted that replica set? No. PVC will be still there. PVC will be still there. Again, you can use that PVC. But here I am talking about when I am deleting the PVC. When I am deleting that PVC also, what will happen with what will happen the associated PVs? What will happen with that associated PVs? That it depends on what? Suppose I am deleting this PVC. The PV, this PV is associated. What will happen to this PV is based on what? What will happen to that PV is based on the reclaim policies. Now, if the reclaim policy is delete, if the reclaim policy is delete, then if we delete PVC, if we delete PVC, the associated PV, the storage, the persistent value also gets deleted, which means now I deleted this application permanently, but still volume claims and volumes are there. Now, if I delete this PVC, if the reclaim policy is delete, is it going to delete that storage also? If I'm just deleting PVC, is that respective PV gets deleted? Yes. If it is a reclaim policy is delete. What do you mean by recycle? What do you mean by recycle? It is going to recycle. If we delete PVC, the associated PV gets recycled. What do you mean by recycle? Which means it is volume will be there, but is it going to scrub the data? Is it going to scrub the data which is part of that volume? Is it going to scrub in the sense, is it going to delete the data which is part of that volume? Now I am deleting a PVC. I am deleting a PVC. There is some data, some files are there in the storage. Whatever your pod has written, that data is there. If the reclaim policy is recycle, when I delete this PVC, it is not going to delete the PV, but it is going to recycle, which means it is going to scrub the data, delete the data. Then does this PV will be again available for any new PVCs? For any new PVCs, does this PV will be again available? If it is recycled, kind of a reusing. So that PVC will be reused by another claims. Kind of a recycling you are doing. That recycle. So if it is a recycle, it is something like this. You can understand very simple, basic scrub. Is it going to something like this? Is it going to remove all the data which is part of that storage? Storage will be there. Storage will be there, but the data will get deleted in that storage. Kind of a formatting. Then if it is recycled, is that volumes will be available for claims again, any other new claim? Yes. So if it is a retain, what will happen? If it is a retain, what will happen? Right? If it is a retain, it is something like this. This is your PVC. You have your data. You have data here. If it is a retain, you are deleting a PVC. Is it going to delete PV? Is it going to delete PV? No, it will not delete PV. And also, is it going to delete the data which is part of that PV? Is it going to scrub the data which is part of that PV? No. The status, I can see this PV status as a released. I can see this PV status as a released. But can I claim this PV with any other PVC? Even though we are retaining that PV and the data, can I claim this with any other PVC? Does this PVC will be associated with any new PV? Even though I have a PV, the status is released, but data is still there. Because you are maintaining still some other application data. Is this PV will be available for any other new PVC? No. So is everyone clear? What is this reclaim policies? When I am deleting PVC, associated PVs, what will happen based on this? It is going to work. These type of questions also asked in the interview. Is everyone clear? What is access modes and how it works? What is reclaim policies, how it works? Now, is this possible, guys? Now I have a pods. Pods are running. Pods are running. Pod is using this PVC. Is it possible to delete this PVC? Is it possible to delete this PVC? My pods are there. Is it possible to delete that PVC? Or is it possible to delete the PV if there is a PVC referring? If there is a PVC referring that pod, is it possible to delete this one? No. Now, if your pod is not there, you deleted that complete application. Can you delete this PV? Without deleting this PVC, can you delete this PV? No, you cannot delete this. But if you deleted PVC, if you deleted PVC, if your reclaim policy is recycle or retain, later can I delete this PV also by manually executing that kubectl delete PV command? Yes. Is everyone clear? What is this persistent volume? How it works? What do you mean by static volume? What do you mean by dynamic volume? Now, do I have any dynamic volumes? Do I have any storage class configured in this cluster? This can create a volumes for me dynamically? No. But if I go for a managed Kubernetes clusters like EBS, EKS, GKS, all those things, do I have a storage class that provisioners configured? Yes. But if required, can I have a storage class configured in this self-managed Kubernetes clusters also? Let's say I have some NFS server already. I have some NFS server already. I have some NFS server which is running somewhere. Even though it's a self-managed Kubernetes cluster, I have a NFS server already running. I configured my NFS server on my own. This is my NFS server which is running on this system. Now, using some plugin, using some kind of a plugin or code, is it possible for me to configure NFS storage class, basically NFS provisioner, NFS provisioner? I can configure this NFS provisioner. So whenever anyone is creating a PVC, is it going to create a PV like this automatically? Is it going to create a PV, this object using that NFS server, using that NFS share path? Is it going to create this PV object automatically if I have NFS? Instead of you create this manually, is that storage class is going to create manually using those details, this PV objects? Yes. That I will demonstrate tomorrow. Tomorrow I will try to deploy storage class using some driver, some kind of a code. I'll deploy the storage class using NFS storage class. In that case, do I need to create these PVs manually as an admin, static volumes? No. Does that volumes will be automatically created by that storage class as per the provisioner? Yes. But as I already told, when I go to managed Kubernetes cluster, am I going to get the storage classes also configured with my cluster? Yes. Tomorrow, I'll show this NFS provisioner, guys. Tomorrow, I'll show this NFS provisioner, how to set up. Today, try to practice whatever has been discussed. Is everyone clear? What is persistent value? What is persistent volume claim? What is access mode? What is reclaim policy? How persistent volumes gets associated with volumes? This is very, very important concept. I try to cover in and out of these persistent volume claims internally, how it works in depth, so that you can understand this, you can apply this in your projects. If someone asked in the interview also, you should be able to easily explain what is what. That's it for today, guys. Have a great day. I'll continue tomorrow with that storage class. Then I'll try to continue with the next set of topics. We have some next set of topics like config maps, secrets. What do you mean by config map? What do you mean by secret in Kubernetes? And what is liveness probe? What is readiness probe? We'll understand some advanced concepts once I am done with that storage class. Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Try to practice as much as possible. That's it.
This conference will now be recorded.